Good morning, class. How are you today? Okay, that's good. Before we start, I want Miss Dioneda to lead us in our prayer. Amen. For our devotional this morning, kindly read the verse found in Samuel chapter 1 verse 5. Class, read it. Okay, very good. And may I ask someone who will share the thoughts from our verses this morning? Okay, Miss Caminade? Very good. Thank you so much. Anyone give me a recall of our past topics, which is about the importance of literature? Yes, Miss Balingit? Okay, thank you. Literature helps us to understand our culture and others. And now I am going to group you into three. The first and second row will be the group 1, third and fourth row will be the group 2, and fifth and sixth row will be the group 3. And you will read in the board the instructions. Thanks for participating, and now I will ask you to sit properly and prepare yourself for our next activity. I guess all of you here are familiar with bugtong or riddles. Can someone give me one examples of riddles? Yes, Miss Balingit? Butot balat lumilipad. So, anong sagot doon? Saranggola. Yes, very good. Thanks for that answer. What about sayings? Are you familiar with it? Yes, Miss Joneda? Ang hindi ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan. Yes, that's very nice example of sayings. Thank you so much, class, for participating to our individual activity. And now, we are going to tackle our lesson this morning. Our topic today is entitled Various Dimensions of Philippine Literary History from Pre-Colonial to the Contemporary. But before we go on to our discussions, I want everybody to read our objectives from this lesson. Okay, thank you, class. Lullabies. These are locally known as hele. These are sung to put babies to sleep. The content varies, but usually parents sing these with ideas on how hard life is and how they hope that their child will not experience the hardships of life. Next is bugtong. These are made up of one or more measured lines with rhyme and may consist of 4 to 12 syllables. Next is kasabihan and sayings. These are figurative words said by our ancestors which teach moral lessons often used in teasing or to comment on a person's actuations. Example, if someone throws stones at you, throw back bread. The epic age. Epics are long narrative poems in which a series of heroic achievements or events, usually of a hero, are dealt with at length. An example of this is Biag ni Lamang, Spanish colonial period. It is an accepted belief that the Spanish colonization of the Philippines started in 1565 during the time of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, the first Spanish governor general in the Philippines. During these times, many changes occurred in the lives of Filipinos. They embraced the Catholic religion, changed their names, and were baptized. Their lifestyles changed too. The first three books in the Philippines are the Doctrina Cristiana, the Pasión, and Urbana at Pelisa. The Doctrina Cristiana, or the Christian Doctrine, was the first book printed in the Philippines in 1593. It was written by Father Juan de Plasencia and Father Domingo Nieva in Tagalog and Spanish. It contained chants and Catholic prayers. It only has 87 pages but $5,000. The Pasión. This is the book about the life and suffering of Jesus Christ. It is read only during Lent. There were 4 versions of this in Tagalog. And the last one is Urbana at Felisa, written by Modesto de Castro. These are letters between 2 sisters, Urbana at Felisa, and have influenced greatly the behavior of people in society because the letters dealt with good behavior. Also, during that time, recreational plays also emerged in the Philippines. Example of these are Balagtasan. This is a poetic contest of skills in debate on a particular topic or issue. This is held to honor Francisco Balagtas Baltazar. The next one is the Panunuluyan. This is presented before 12 on Christmas Eve. This is a presentation of the search of the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph for an inn wherein to deliver the baby Jesus. Period of Enlightenment, 1872 to 1898. During the time, in 18th century, Filipino intellectual educated in Europe called Ilustrados began to write about the hitch of colonization. The propaganda movement, 1872 to 1896. This movement was spearheaded mostly by the intellectual middle class like Jose Rizal, Marcelo del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Heina, Antonio Luna, Mariano Ponce, Jose Maria Panganiban, and Pedro Paterno. The American Regime, 1898 to 1944. With the advent of education in the Philippines, Americans influenced Filipino writers to write using the English language. Next is the Japanese period, 1941 to 1945. During the Japanese period, the invaders saw to it that Filipino movements be limited. The writers stopped wielding pens and started wielding guns. Philippine literature in English came to a halt, except for the Tribune and the Philippine Review. Almost all newspapers in English were stopped by the Japanese. The only contact with the outside world was done with utmost secrecy through the underground radio program called Voice of Freedom. Three types of poems emerged during this period. A. Haiku, a poem of free verse that the Japanese liked. It was made up of 17 syllables divided into 3 lines. And Tanaga, like the haiku is short but it had measure and rhyme. Karaniwang anyo, usual form. Philippine literature in English, 1941 to 1945. Because of the strict prohibition imposed by the Japanese in the writing and publishing of works in English, Philippine literature in English experienced a dark period. For the first 20 years, many books were published both in Filipino and in English. New Filipino literature. Most themes in the writings dealt with the Japanese brutalities, the poverty of life under the Japanese government, and the brave guerrilla exploits. Period of activism, 1970 to 1972. The youth became vocal with their sentiments. They demanded a change in the government. It was manifested in the bloody demonstrations and the sidewalk expression, but also in literature. Period of the New Society, 1972 to 1980. The period of the New Society started on September 21, 1972. The Carlos Palanca Awards continued to give annual awards. Poems dealt with patience regard of native culture customs and the beauties of nature and surroundings. Newspaper donned new forms. Poems during this period of the Third Republic were romantic and revolutionary. Many Filipino songs dealt with themes that were true to life, like those of grief, poverty, aspiration for freedom, love of God, of country, and fellow men. Post-EDSA, One Revolution, 1986 to 1995. In this period, changes were noticed in the Filipino songs, newspapers, speeches, and even in television programs. The newspaper that enjoyed an overnight increase in circulation with the Inquirer, Malaya, and the People Journal. 21st century period, 2001 to the present. The new trend have been used and introduced to meet the need and taste of the new generation. 21st century learners are demanded to be ICT inclined to compete with the styles and format of writing as well. New codes or lingos are used to add flavor in the literary pieces produced nowadays. Thank you so much for listening, and now that we are done discussing, I am going to give you a chance to fix your answer in the given literature timeline before. So now, Group 1, give your representative, Group 2 and Group 3 to fix your answer on the board. Okay, I guess all groups are done. Now let's check your answers and I will show you the correct answers on the board. For our next activity, go to your respective groups and I want each group to make a short skit about differences between then and now in the Philippines. And you are going to present it in 10 minutes. Okay, Group 1, present your short skit. Next, Group 2. Group 3, present your short skit. Okay, thank you so much. Very good, everyone. Okay, class, for your quiz, answer the given questions on the board and you are going to answer it for 10 minutes, then submit your papers forward. Oh, I guess all of you are done answering your papers. Submit it in front, class. Okay, thank you so much. That's all for today. Thank you for listening and cooperating to our class. And see you in the next meeting. Bye.